It's a great way to end our first day here. Has it been great? Yes? Some great things to take away? So, perfect way to end the day is by, as I knew him, was just the partner of Dan for years until I finally got to meet him in person. And he's way taller than that headshot. I was looking online, and we've done some webinars together and, a lot of correspondence. And the passion just seeps through even virtually. We all were like in tears when Dr. Cody was in tears at the beginning there. So there's such purpose. But it's funny, we know everybody by headshots. And then when I saw Cody, I said, "You're just bigger than your headshot." Could you imagine if somebody said that about a woman? You're so much bigger than your headshot is. But among the accolades and deserved background and experience and credibility that you can, of course, read if you don't know already about Dr. Cody, he's a father of 7. Yeah, so if that doesn't keep him busy. Dr. Dan's a father of 5, so there's no competition there, I don't think. He gave up. Yeah. But just please help me welcome part of the visionary team here at Functional Aging Institute, Dr. Cody Sipe.
I'm not dancing. Don't worry. That's old school BC Boys right there. I am so excited to kind of anchor the end of our day here because it's been good. Don't you agree? This has been some good stuff. And we just really appreciate all of you guys being so involved, being so passionate, and joining us in kind of what we're doing. It's really interesting that I'm even really in this business the way that I'm in this business, working with this population, because I'll tell you, when I was in middle school, somewhere about 7th grade, our church youth group took a little trip to the local nursing home. And we were going to sing, right, and kind of cheer up the residents there. And I had never been to a nursing home before. Hadn't really been around older people very much at all. Both my grandfathers had died when I was much younger. One of my grandmothers died when I was pretty young. And my other grandmother I saw some, but not very much. She ended up dying when I was in college. So didn't have a lot of older people to hang around with to really know even what to expect. So I just go all, wide-eyed and ready to go. And we get there, and this is an old school nursing home. So as soon as we walk in the door, the smell, right? Right. It's that there's a lot of antiseptic trying to cover up some bodily fluids that ain't quite cutting it, right? And it's thick. The air is thick with the smell. And so we immediately walk in. I'm like, whoa, what are we doing? And we kind of file in, and we kind of go through the little lobby there, get to the main area where it's a kind of nurse's station, long hallway. And lined up down the hallway are wheelchairs. And people are in the wheelchairs, and most of them have bibs, and they're kind of drooling on themselves and muttering a little bit. And I was just shocked. I did not expect that. It's like, what are we doing here, right? And so immediately I was taken back. We went in to do our singing and kind of made it through. We did our little presentation of songs, and now we're supposed to kind of mingle, right? And the situation where you don't want to mingle, so you end up mingling with your friends, right, and trying to avoid people. And I'm talking to one of my friends, and this iron grip kind of grabs me from behind on the back of my arm. And I turn around really quickly, and it's this older lady who is kind of laughing and muttering, and I don't know what she's saying, and she's trying to get really close to my face. And I was just scared. I didn't know what to think. And so I walked out of that whole situation going, wow, if this is what getting older is all about, I don't want to have anything to do with it, right? And I certainly don't ever want to work with people that are older if this is what it's like. Well, we fast forward, have hardly any experience or connection with older adults at all, enter the master's program at Virginia Tech, and that master's program is in clinical exercise science, and we run a cardiac rehab program on the campus. Well, guess who's in the cardiac rehab program, right? It's all older adults. And I was pretty nervous because I wanted to be in a clinical exercise program, but I didn't really understand that that meant this was the population I was working with. It just didn't really sink into me. So we walk in and we've got to run this cardiac rehab program, and we walk in the first day, and again, there's kind of the older population. But that ended up being a completely 180 experience, right? Here, I was working with people that were active, they were engaged in life, they were funny and witty, they had all these great experiences that they would tell me about. They were very intelligent people, right? They had a zest for life, right? Completely different situation. And I just kind of put those two things together and said, okay, which one of those is valid? Which one of those is a valid experience of the aging process? And I realized, you know what? Both are. Both are valid. So then that ignited in me, well, why can't people experience this positive aspect instead of this negative aspect that I saw and experienced so many years ago? And that really is what sparked my interest in working with older adults. Just that one situation is I saw what could be, what the possibility was. And so kind of through my master's program and then into my doctoral program, that interest just kept growing and growing and growing until finally I started working at Purdue and met my work wife, Dan, and it was history, right? He is really my soulmate, not Martin's. Just ask my wife. I'm going to try to recap some of the great stuff that we've heard today and reiterate some main points without being too redundant, but there's a certain amount of redundancy that must be done, right? Because there's some things that just have got to continue to be driven in the ground and honestly just driven in our heads until they are so deep in our psyche that we just start to follow through with them, okay? I know for some of you, if you've heard me speak at a conference before, one of the concepts that I like to use is this concept of a perfect storm. Because I think the situation we are in the fitness industry is a perfect storm. It is this series of events that have come together at the same time to create a unique opportunity that we've never had, and frankly, we probably never will have again, okay? The first factor in this storm is the fact of the numbers. The baby boomer numbers are so huge. But that's just not all. It doesn't stop there, because next we've got to look at the need that the boomers have for fitness. But also they have a desire to get some good stuff out of fitness. They don't desire fitness, but they do desire what fitness can give them, what it can provide to them, okay? Another factor is they've got the money. And then one last critical factor, we'll look at each of these, is the fact that honestly, when you look to the industry, nobody, hardly at all, gets it like you guys get it. So what do? You follow the money, you follow the opportunity, okay? This has all of the necessary ingredients for you to be successful, okay? When we look at the numbers, we think about this group that we call the baby boomers, born between 1946 and 1964, a large 18-year spread. It's a very diverse group, okay? We look at the numbers of this group. This group is huge and will continue to keep on growing as the 55-plus market continues to grow. You know that right now, okay, this year, a boomer will turn 65 every 7 to 8 seconds. Every 7 to 8 seconds, a boomer will turn 65. Guess what's going to start happening next year? The boomers are going to start turning 70 once every 7 to 8 seconds. We're trying to catch up with this thing, right? And so the sooner that we can plant our flag and make a decision that we are going to serve this market, the earlier we can do that, the better, because this market is just going to continue to grow, but also their needs are going to continue to evolve as well as they get older, okay? So here's where we are. We are just at the beginning stages of this humongous growth that, look, it doesn't even tail off out in the year 2050. It's still growing in 2050. That's 35 years from now. Anybody's career going to be well over and done? in 35 years, right? Okay? For those of you who are new, who are starting out, who are younger, guess what? This is an entire career. I mean, I got into the aging business at just the right time, right? It was good timing for me, okay? Because this is a huge, huge market that is just going to continue to grow. You think about all the impact that they've had on society so far, and that they have changed as they've moved through their decades of life. They have been the focus. When they were born, they were the focus. When they were the teenagers, they were the focus. When they were in the 20s, they were the focus. Guess what? They're used to being in the limelight. They're used to being the center of attention. And now as they've gotten older and they've wisened up, they realize, oh, guess what? We can use that to our advantage. We can demand what we want to demand, and guess what, society? You should be meeting that demand, okay? And we have the opportunity to do that. So Martin mentioned this concept of the longevity economy, because it's not just the numbers, it's the finances behind these numbers, okay? This population is not just the largest, it is the most educated and the most affluent population we have ever seen. And so the longevity economy, which is all of the economic activity that occurs around this population, is the third largest economy in the world. Okay? It's third only behind the US and China. That's how big this economy is. Okay? They have the money to spend on the things not only that they need, but on the things that they want, that they truly desire. They have a large amount of discretionary income. They own most of the wealth in this country. They own most of the financial assets of this country. And guess what's interesting? Is with the current boomers, when we talk just about the boomers, not just the whole 50-plus market, the boomers have been called the sandwich generation, right? Why are they the sandwich generation? What are they sandwiched between? Aging parents and their children, okay? Guess what those aging parents are doing? They are now dying. Guess who's getting their money? The boomers. This group stands to be, we're going to see the largest transmission of wealth in history in the next about 10 years. As the boomers' parents, as they pass away and then leave their inheritance to those boomer children. So this group is going to become even more wealthy and have an even more discretionary spending power at their disposal. So again, it just keeps growing. It just keeps building. Okay, the storm just keeps getting stronger. Okay? In addition, of course, they need fitness. They need what we can give them through fitness. Now, there have been some misconceptions somewhat about this boomer population, because we think of the boomer population as being more active and as being more healthy than previous populations at the same age. Yet a lot of the data is showing that that's not the case. In fact, when we look at these statistics from Canada, okay, we see that they are not following a healthy lifestyle, okay, as they should, even though they know that they should. Okay, 85% not eating their fruits and vegetables like their mom told them to. Okay, 62% saying they're obese, 20% not exercising at all, 30% saying they're often or always stressed. Yet 80% think their doctor would say they're healthy. Is there a little disconnect there? But you know what? As they go through the aging process, right, and all of you in here that are in this category, you can attest to this, and you testify to this all the time. You start to realize your body is not keeping up with here and here, right? You still have this mind that's sharp, that wants to do stuff. You still have this heart that's zestful for life. Right? But the body's not quite keeping up. It's wearing down. And millions and millions and millions of boomers are facing that realization every single year. And it's driving them to look for solutions. Okay? And you could be the solution. 52% say they don't get any physical activity in the US in boomers, with higher rates of hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes, and obesity than the previous generation at that same age. So the rates are actually going up. They need you, they need all of us to step in and deliver something that's going to improve their health. Plus, they really want what fitness can offer them. Now, they don't want to go to the gym and sweat and work hard necessarily, right? but they know that physical fitness is the answer to so many of their problems. We see this in survey after survey in which they say fitness is one of the most critical things I can do to age healthily. And then on the other hand, they say, but I don't do it, right? There's a disconnect there. Why is there a disconnect? Well, I think a lot of it is because, again, as a fitness industry, as Martin said, I don't think we've stepped up to the plate and done a good job of meeting their needs as they've gone through the shift through the fitness industry as they've gotten older. So I think a lot of that is on us. But also in understanding that what they want to get out of fitness is not necessarily six-pack abs. It's not necessarily bulging biceps. Now, can someone be 65, 70, 75 and have those things? Absolutely. Could they be interested in those things? Absolutely. But that is, again, the minority. That's not this large group of people who are just average folks that say, guess what? Like Scott said, I want to be able to play with my grandchildren, right? I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to keep working if I want to keep working. And guess what? This is the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in our country. Did you know that? It's not the 20-some-year-olds, right? It's the 50 and 60-year-olds that are joining the ranks of entrepreneurship in droves because they're leaving the industries that they've kind of had to work for. They've made a living. This is kind of what I committed to a long time ago, right? And now they realize, no, I want to do something else. And now I'm in a place where I can do something else. In fact, a lot of you are in here. You're in that boat, aren't you? You're doing something else, and you have been doing something else, and you've got a passion for fitness, and you want to serve people, and you're just grappling now with the fear of, can I step out and make this thing happen? Guess what? You're a boomer, right? This is happening time and time again every single day. This is a very adventurous group, okay? We can help them. This is why our mission statement that we talk about all the time is to help mature adults do the things they need to do the things they like to do, and do the things they want to do better, easier, and with less discomfort. That's what we've got to wrap our minds around, that is the goal that they're looking for. And we'll talk about how to utilize this in order to attract this group of clients, and retain them and really serve them well, okay? Interesting thing about our fitness industry. Does anybody do CrossFit? A lot of times people don't admit to that, okay? So we have a few older people that do CrossFit, right? Guess what? You can go to a CrossFit facility. You can go to a hardcore bodybuilding facility. You can go to any kind of facility you can think of. You'll likely find a few mature adults in there. Does that mean they're knocking out of the park with this population? No. It's a diverse group. This really got hammered home to me actually when I was working at Purdue, and we started a group called the Coalition for Living Well After 50. So this was a group of us at the university and within the community that said, we want to improve physical activity levels among the 50-plus population. What do we need to do to make that happen? So we're looking at trails and built environment and policies and, advertisements, all this sort of thing. So it was my job, since I was kind of the fitness guy, to go around to all the gyms and kind of do a survey of what the gyms were doing and how they were serving the older adult. I remember I went to a kind of a newer gym on the other side of town. I had heard about it because I know in the back they had a strongman area, right? With the Atlas stones and I don't even know what you call them, the big humongous things that you have to carry for the farmer's walk and all this huge equipment, right? And I walk in and it's a classic, very strongman bodybuilding type of facility. There's a couple pieces of cardio collecting dust in the corner, The weights are massive and huge. You know who the only people working out in that facility at the time were? An older couple, about 70 years old. And I was like, what? Because there wasn't a fit couple. I mean, he was really helping her kind of walk from station to station. And it was just like, wow. Why, I just wanted to say, why are you here, right? And probably because that was close to their where they lived. They didn't know where else to go, and that's just what they did, right? So just because there's some there doesn't mean that they're being served, right? That they're doing a good job with them. When there was another big facility that was open near our facility, We'd have people all the time who would come into our place and go, gosh, I just signed a 2-year paid in full contract over at that other place. I went there for a week. It's awful. It doesn't meet any of my needs. I'm not interested in going there at all. I wish I would have found out about you 2 weeks ago, But sometimes they don't know what they don't know, right? Huge opportunities here, okay? This is our current model when we talk about physical function, okay? Physical function is complicated, isn't it? Okay, and that's why we really try to dig into the evidence and the science of how do we improve this thing at the center that we called function, which is at the core of all these life experiences that we're talking about, right? How do we do that? Well, we've got to look at all these myriad of factors and the complex interplay that occurs. And so that's why in our certification, in our training, we spend so much time talking about all the different facets and trying to put those pieces together for clients that need different parts of that puzzle, correct? Not everybody needs the same thing, okay? But again, we've got an industry that doesn't quite get that. They're more interested in saying, okay, you're over 50, this is the program you do. Or, oh, you're over 50, age doesn't matter, you're going to do the same program as our 20-year-olds. And I think both of those are off the mark. Okay. These are a couple of our clients that are good examples of the type of client that you could have multiplied many times over. Doctors Doug and Sydney. Very adventurous people. They love adventure travel, and they want to keep traveling. They want to keep doing this adventure travel. By the way, active and adventure travel is on a skyrocket right now because of the boomers. They're driving active adventure travel up to just unprecedented levels. New categories are being invented just because of the boomers. And you know what they really like to do when they travel is not just be active. You know what else they like to do? What would you think? Well, yeah, they do like to eat and drink wine, yes. Instead of going and just looking at something, they like to learn about it. Education spending is going through the roof right now. And again, driven all by the boomers. Like, why are the boomers spending money on education? They don't have to go back to school. They are. They're going back and they're taking all kinds of courses, and they're combining that a lot of times with this adventure travel. They want to go somewhere, they want to be active, and they want to learn, right? It's an amazing change that we're seeing. But these are two examples who they had to get special permission just go out on the glaciers because of their age, right? But they trained, they got the permission, had a great experience. We see this time and time again. But unfortunately, this is how the fitness industry has treated this group. Okay, and we can hammer this over and over again, but it's so vital to understand that this is still happening. This is still the situation. This is still mainstream. You are different. You don't understand how different you are. You don't understand how innovative you are being by stepping out and saying, look, this is not only a population I want to serve, but I want to stake a business on this group, right? It is innovative because nobody else is really doing it, okay? Now, Martin mentioned a couple businesses that have come along that are focused on this. Paul Holbrook is here with Age Performance, who's franchising his facility and just getting started. Activate, Brain and Body that Martin was talking about, and some of these others. We are starting to see more and more people realize, hey, this is an awesome opportunity, okay? But guess what? Not just all these organizations that might be franchising, might have multiple clubs. All of you who are here right now, you all have that opportunity. In fact, this is so huge. Did you know that Amazon has a special site for the 50 plus? Yeah. Probably didn't know that, did you? I just found out last week. I didn't know it either until I don't even know where I stumbled across it, but now they have an active and healthy living store just for the 50 plus adult. It doesn't have much stuff in there right now. Okay, it was very sparse, I'll tell you. But again, what does that mean for you? Opportunity, right? We're still kind of in this huge growth phase. Lots of opportunity for all of us. Okay, so here are some essential elements that we're going to talk about and dive into a little bit, okay? And I'll draw on some of the things that have been said before, some of the things that that Bedros referred to and that Scott has referred to and that Martin has talked about. We'll look at some of these different areas. These three things are vital: who you train, how you train, and where you train. This is a very diverse population. When you say you market to seniors or you market to older adults or you market to the 50 plus, guess what? You don't. You don't. You don't market to this entire older adult population, right? You set out a communication, a message of some sort, and that is going to reach a certain kind of older adult. That's going to reach a certain type of prospect, okay? The rest are basically going to ignore it. So if you're trying this shotgun approach and you're putting everybody in the same pot of being 50 plus or boomer or senior or whatever terms you want to use, okay, it's too big. It's too diverse. You're going to miss it, okay? You've got to hone in on who is my client. Who is it that I want to focus on, okay? In addition, we've got to talk about how you train, right? As we've talked about, we have got to create outcomes that are important for that client. And in order to have outcomes that are important for that client, in order to help them reach their life goals, you've got to train them for that. You've got to train them appropriately. Had a gentleman who, I don't train really people anymore, right? Because I work at a university and teach. But through a friend, I had a guy contact me who was in his late 70s. He was a retired pilot and was preparing to go hike the world's longest cave in Vietnam. And this cave, I can't pronounce it, but it was just discovered literally like 2 or 3 years ago. And this cave is several miles long that features all sorts of differing terrain, has a river running through it, all beautiful. If you look at the pictures, it's incredible. So he was preparing to go on this trip of a lifetime with his son-in-law and his grandson, right? And so he wanted to make sure that he was going to be able to go because they told them very clearly, because of his age, they said, look, there's about a 3-mile trek down to the mouth of the cave. And if you're slowing us up and you can't keep up, guess what? You don't go in. So he's concerned he's not even going to be able to, he's going to, fly all the way around the world, get down to this cave and not even be able to go in, right? And have to be turned back. So he doesn't want that. So he comes in for training. I said, sure, I'll train you. That sounds good. He comes in, he's actually a relatively fit guy. His cardio is good. He does cardio very regularly. His strength is good. He doesn't have any strength deficit. His movement looks really good. I mean, you would think, wow, this guy's fine, right? Why do we need to train? He's good to go, right? So we started to do some training, and I'm looking for some deficits, looking for where his issues might be, and have him try the karaoke. You know the karaoke, front, back, not the grapevine, not that one, just karaoke, right? So I have him try the karaoke, and it was like front, back, front. He couldn't do it. I mean, it blew his mind. He was totally shocked. Had no idea he wouldn't be able to do something so simple. But he literally couldn't get his mind wrapped around it, okay? Now, think about this. What is he training to do? He's training to hike this cave, which is, by the way, the Son Doong Cave. Okay? Austin just looked it up for me. The Son Doong Cave. He's going to hike this cave, okay? Might he have to do some crossover steps? All right, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's a motor control, there's a coordination issue that we've got to look at, right? Thinking about our functional model, right? Looking at the different areas. Let's try something else. Let's try this one. We're going to do the tick-tock walk, okay? So every time he steps with his right foot, he's just going to walk a line straight ahead. He's going to turn his head to 2 o'clock. Just snap it to 2 o'clock. Step with the left, snap to 10, right? So you're going, every step you just snap in your head, okay? So he goes to do it, right? This is him doing it. Every time he turned his head, that's the direction he stepped in. Again, you're walking through a cave. Are you going to be sitting there looking at your feet? Are you going to keep your head straight? No. You're looking around, right? You're stepping on rocks and slippery rocks. You're trying to take in the beauty. Recipe for disaster. I don't care how good your cardio was, how strong your legs are. Guess what? You're going down, right? And so he worked on it. He worked on it very diligently. In fact, he was so befuddled by it, he went home and he starts Googling it and looking at YouTube videos. And he found some trainer teaching the karaoke. And he literally sat in his living room practicing the karaoke like several times a day. And so the next week, by the end of the next week, this guy's flying across the floor, able to do the karaoke. He's doing the TikTok walk, snappy as can be, right? Okay? We've got to know how to train them to meet the goals that they're coming in with. We can't just rely on the same old and look at somebody and say, oh, you're fit for your age. Those are words of death, by the way, right? Oh, you're fit for your age. You look good for your age. Man, you're going to get punched in the mouth if you say that to a woman, okay? Just say, she looks good, okay? And leave it at that, okay? Make sure your wife's not around, but just say it, okay? But where you train is also important. Okay, think about the environment and think about the facility. Although these older adults are going everywhere, okay, and I've spoken actually with several of you that are training out of other facilities right now, and it is less than ideal, right? You've got cluttered equipment. It's way too busy. It's way too loud. You've got people grunting. The music's too loud. The lighting isn't good. All these barriers that you're having to deal with, guess what? People will overcome a certain amount. But when there's another option that then provides them with an environment that they don't have all those issues, guess where they want to go? They want to go to that environment. So we want to say, look, if you can get all these things in order, you are aligning yourself for success. If you can set all that up, okay? Now, if you are working in a larger facility that you don't have the option to go somewhere, then you need to start talking about, okay, how do I maybe customize an area that we can have a little bit more privacy, okay? But don't do like one club did. One of my friends, Dottie Drake, who started her facilities a long time ago, she was a consultant, went to a fitness center. They said, oh, we want you to come look at our senior program. It's really awesome. We think you'd like it. Give us some help on it, right? So she goes in the facility. First off, the parking lot is like 2 stories below the gym. You have to walk up 2 flights of stairs to get to the gym. First barrier, right? She walked in, and it opened immediately into the fitness floor with like the fitness desk in the middle. And like you had to like kind of walk through the equipment just to get to the fitness desk. And she said, no, I'm here to see the senior program. And the guy came down. He then proceeded to take her down the back hall, up the stairs, and down another hall to a room like secluded away from everybody, like you're in the dungeon, right? That was their senior program, right? Any barriers that might be perceived? Absolutely, okay? But again, that's what a lot of the industry is perceiving as serving this market, right? That's the stuff they're doing. They're just they want the money. They don't really want to make a substantial change in order for it to happen. That's the opportunity that you have to swoop in and say, look, I've removed all the barriers there are. People will flock to you. We've seen it over and over again. So, get out a piece of paper. This is your quiz. I'm a professor, so I have to give you a quiz, right? Have to give you a quiz. First thing I want you to do is I want you to write down some characteristics of your ideal client, your best client, right? Give us kind of an archetype of your best client. Take a few minutes to just write down a few things that you think are really important about this ideal client. As Bedro said, he's named his ideal client as a fitness professional, has a picture on a wall, okay? We have our ideal clients that we've named that are very specific. So what are yours? What's your ideal client? Okay, stop. Do you have some stuff down? It shouldn't be long. You should be able to whip this out pretty quickly. Now here's some questions I want you to ask. Here's the quiz part. See, that wasn't actually the quiz. This is the quiz part. What neighborhoods do they live in? Can you write that down? What charities do they support? Do you know that? What community organizations are they heavily involved in? Can you name those? Are they in Kiwanis or Rotary or something else? Where do they shop for their clothes? Do they go to Talbot's? Chico's? What are their favorite restaurants? What are the restaurants in town? That's kind of the go-to place for them. What do they do for fun and recreation? How do they spend their leisure time? You should be able to answer all these questions, or else you don't know your client. You don't know really who these people are if you can't go through these questions and answer these things. And there's even still another really, really, really big question that you've got to wrap your mind around. Okay? Not this one. Where do they go on vacation? But it's this. What's their W? What's their W? What's the thing that they want to do? Why are they training? What is their aspiration? Martin used a very key word this morning when he talked about aspiration. What is their aspiration? What is it that they are trying to get to, work towards? Why do all this fitness stuff? What is it getting me to? What's their W? Do you have a hard time nailing down some of your older clients to a goal? Yeah. Like, what's your goal? Well, I want to live a healthier life. Okay, but what's your goal? Well, what do you mean what my goal is? I want to be healthy. I want to live a long time. No. I mean, like, do you want to run a mile in under 4 minutes next week? I mean, what's your goal? Do you want to lift 300 pounds by the end of the month? What's your body fat percent? What's your waist measurement, right? These are all things that, right? They don't have any intention of nailing that stuff down. Their W is a little bit more nebulous, but you still have to drill into it. You have to kind of take that as the value that they give it, because if that's what they're saying, that's important to them, but you do have to start peeling that back a little bit. What does that look like? What does a healthy life look like? What does a long and healthy life look like? Well, now that they start talking about their grandkids, or they talk about the events that are coming up, or places that they haven't visited yet, or whatever it might be, right now you're starting to get to the nitty-gritty. But it comes back to a lot of life experience more than just goals that we typically talk about in fitness. Give you an example of a potential ideal client type, at least a group, to start thinking about. Does anybody in here focus on 50-plus women? Your focus is on women? Guess what? Your business should be exploding, right? Because this is a growing population in kind of financial control, in empowerment, we could say, right? They are coming into their own. Okay, this is a group of women, and if you go, there's a great book. You can go to vibrantnation.com, but there's also a great book on this topic that I'm pulling some of this stuff from. They talk about vibrant women as those women in their 50s and 60s who are now kind of saying, hey, whoa, it's time for me to stand up, right? It's time for me to realize I've been working like a dog for the past 50 years, okay, to make this family work, to make careers work, to do all this stuff, and guess what? Who makes all the financial decisions in the household? It's not the guy, right? Okay? The woman is making the financial decisions almost all the time for everything that's happening. Okay? They're behind the scenes. This is the first older group in history to where their social networks are growing as they get older, right? What has the pattern typically been? As you get older, you start to lose your social networks, right? Oh, because people die and you don't gain new friends and you don't do anything. Guess what? Theirs is growing. And a lot of it is driven by the social media part, by Facebook, by being able to stay in touch with people. Their networks are growing, okay? Their top external influencer are women like me. And I want to encourage each and every one of you that when you are trying to think about, what image do I use and to kind of appeal to this woman, use real people that you know. Don't use stock photos. Use real images. Use real clients. Now make the pictures nice, make them look good, but use real people. Because not only do they like women like them, but if there's women like them that they know, guess what? Double points right there, okay? They were taught growing up, this is interesting, 56% were raised to believe that you must control your own finances, but 44% were taught a man will take care of you financially, right? That's what they were taught. 44% were taught that. Guess what? Only 3% believe that now. They said, forget that, man. I write the checks, okay? He does what I say, okay? Plus, when we talk about that inheritance of wealth that I mentioned before, they're really having a double inheritance. They're coming into a double inheritance. Who lives longer? So not only are their aging parents passing away, they're also losing husbands as they go into their 70s. So they have a double inheritance that's coming. Their financial control is growing even more. So in this book, there are many ways that marketers kind of try to look at this demographic and kind of parse it out. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because we don't have time. But if you've heard me talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And how a lot of this, the goal is this self-actualization, these peak experiences, right? They want to experience stuff more than own stuff. Okay, that's their goal. Okay, and so in this kind of type of model, what we see is that the norm are these women who are what they might call the self-interested spender, but are moving kind of up this pyramid so that they become kind of more in line with their values. Okay, and values become very important. So here's some messages for this large group. They're almost half. It's 48% of boomer women. And these boomer women, it's just not all boomer women. They're specifically talking about women who they've targeted that are active, that they have over $100,000 in income annually, okay, and they're very educated. Okay, this is the group. This is obviously a group that we want to go after, okay, that we want to serve. Messages to avoid, they'll love you for it. I don't need them to love me for anything, right? I don't need their approval. 8 out of 10 doctors recommend this. Well, who cares, right? It doesn't matter what they say. I'm going to find out if it's good for me. And I'm going to ask my friends if they think it's good for me, right? That's who's going to influence me, okay? Here are some things that work. You know what you want. You've earned the right to your opinion, right? All these things you don't say outright, but this is the stuff that you want to build into your messaging. This is the message that comes across, right? That, oh my goodness, you are empowered, you're there, you are ready to take control, you are taking control, and we've got to find some way to tap into that fitness-wise, okay? The growing boomer market is going to continue to grow with women, okay? So a huge, huge population to go after. So here's some elements, again, of a successful business. So Scott talked briefly about a few of these, and that's building the list. How do you build your list? Well, you are going to do that online in many of the strategies that Scott talked about, but you also want to do that offline. Okay, you want to build your list offline. How do you build your list offline? One of the great things that you can do is if you know your ideal client and you know where they shop and where they eat and what they do for recreation and the charitable organizations you're involved in, guess what? You'll be like Dr. Dan when people say, my gosh, Dan, you're everywhere. I see you everywhere. I can't get away from you. Are you stalking me? Okay, it's that same idea because we are in all those places that they are going because we know who our client is, right? We got it nailed down. You've got to nail it down. That's what becomes so powerful. They see you over and over and over again, okay? And of course, then if they're seeing you, their friends are seeing you, their close social network is seeing you, some of their close social network are your clients. And guess what? Now when you ask for referrals, okay, and you get them to refer, and they talk to Susie about coming and joining, oh yeah, I've seen that guy. I know what that is. I know what that facility is. They know a lot about you already, okay? You want to connect with the list and then sell to the list. Here are some myths very quickly about the baby boomers that have, some of these have been addressed. That they are online. They're also becoming increasingly mobile. And if you make fun of them, you are really, really in trouble, okay? The only people that can make fun of them is them. That's exactly right. And it must be done the right way. It must be done the right way, okay? So I'm going to skip kind of through some of this because Scott really did a good job of really focusing on these. But when we get down to it, the internet is going to be a great place for you to spend a lot of your time and resources in order to try to attract this market. Blogging is also a great way to connect. And so if you're not blogging, you really need to get into that. And it doesn't matter if you don't like writing. I don't care if you put your hand up and you say you don't like writing, okay? You've got to do it. You've got to start writing, okay? Just do it. It doesn't matter. You know what you can always do after you write something? Erase it, right? It's just like the video camera. I don't like doing videos. You know, I'm terrible at it. Guess what? You set up the video camera and you do it, and you delete it, and you do it, and you delete it, and you do it, till finally you go, crap, just post it, right? Then you're good. And then the next time it's not so hard, okay? okay? And if you don't like it, don't watch it again, right? You don't have to watch yourself, okay? They're spending money online. This is Dina, throwing a picture of Dina. Yeah, you didn't know this. This is an example of building your list offline. Here she is. She's at a grocery store trying to build her email list. She got, 100? You said 100. Oh, you lied. She got about 50 emails from this, okay? So when you think about, well, why do I want to go stand somewhere and build my email list? Because this is important. It's important you keep building your list. Now, when you're with their restaurant and their clothing stores and everything else, guess what? You start to develop connections, and they start sharing your information with their list. You share their information with your list. It's a win-win, okay? And you get opt-ins that come in all the time, okay? So one report documented that 71% of adults over the age of 55 felt that advertising did not reflect their current lifestyle and were turned off by the marketing messages that targeted them. This is very common. What we see that nobody is really doing that great of a job marketing and targeting this population, and especially in fitness. Okay, we can look at advertisements and messages over and over in which their intention is to reach the audience, but what they're doing is actually repelling them over and over, okay? So we've got to look at how we connect with them. This is an example, the old bag you'll actually love. Yeah. This was a real ad. This is a real ad. It was an ad for bras, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. It was a suitcase. Okay? But we see this kind of thing all the time. So there's this great divide. How do we connect across this gap? How do we fill this gap, this void? I'll tell you, it's not technology. Technology is actually bringing us close together. But there are some keys I think that we've got to deal with. One, I think, is we've got to look at your generation. For those of you that are not boomers, okay, you're going to possibly struggle with connecting with the population because there are generational divides. How you've been raised in the area you've been grown up in, is different. Okay, do we have any millennials? Anybody millennial? Okay, that it? Just got one millennial? Huh? What's the age of that? Like 1980 and after, born 1980 and after. Yeah, so you don't even know who you are. It's amazing, right? Well, what is the struggle with you guys in reaching boomers? What is the disconnect? Well, we can look at some things kind of globally, and this might not fit you, but typically you guys text. You can't write with a darn because you don't know what punctuation is because you text all the time, right? You want to share stuff on Instagram that is short, sweet, and has no depth whatsoever, okay? Even, what's the one where you share a picture and it goes away after a few seconds? Snapchat, yeah. How many boomers like Snapchat? No, exactly, right? There's a disconnect now, and I kind of use technology as a part of it, but it's really not the technology. It's how you end up communicating that the technology is driving, right? For those of us who are just off the cusp of being baby boomers, okay? So if you're born somewhere like 65 to 79, okay, who are you? You're Gen X. What's one of your struggles? One of your struggles is you don't know how to kind of smooch a little bit to allow a conversation and relationship to grow because you want to get to the point, right? Just get to the point. Just tell me what I need to know and I'm done, okay? I don't need to chit-chat with you, right? You go into a store with your dad who knows everybody, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is taking forever. I could have done this in 10 seconds, right? Because I'd have gone in and say, Bob, look, how much is this? What's it called? Okay, good, I'm done with you. Leave, right? But they're in this whole conversation, right? Look at this, right? To be effective in multi-generation marketing, what do you have to make the shift to is learning how to speak the way they speak, right? That's what's going to connect with them. Kind of like what Bedros was saying, when somebody's all excited and they're leaning in and you need to match that, okay? You've got to relax and slow down and let the relationship develop. Your marketing really should be slow marketing, okay? And now it should be accentuated with punches, right? You should have offers. You've got to be selling. But we have people that have been on our list for years before they finally come in and join. And it's not that we had failed them in some way, because guess what? They stayed on our list. They stayed involved. They knew they needed to do it. And eventually, finally, something happened in their life that triggered them to say, I got to do this, right? And they walk in the door, and it's not even a sale at that point. We take their order because they're like, okay, I want to train for a year. Here, do it. Here's my card, right? So there's a certain amount of slow marketing that has to occur because you've got to allow that relationship to develop. And we talk about the know, like, and trust thing. This becomes so critical with this population because, one, you guys have been burned, right? People have been trying to gyp you out of money for a long time. A lot of schemes, a lot of fraud. And so you've got to earn that trust. Okay? You've got to earn that trust that they're willing to give you. Okay? All right. So a couple things just to end. Be an authority and a celebrity who cares. You have to show that care, the fact that you do care. It is very true that they want to know how much you care for sure. Let that passion come through. Let that care be authentic. It has to be authentic. Always focus on the positive. Never be negative in your ads or your messaging. Even if somebody's serving you up a T-ball to talk about how bad another facility is, how bad another trainer is, whatever it is, you just laugh and you shake your head and you say, well, we do this, right? You don't hit the home run with it. It's too much negativity, okay? They don't like it. What's in it for me? This is the first generation that has really been blatant about, yay, you got to serve me. Why? Again, because as soon as they were born, society's been focused on everything about them. Okay, the whole education system completely restructured for the baby boomers, right? It all became about them, okay? Speak their language, kind of what we talked about, and use whole brain messaging. So whole brain messaging really is just all about, you've got to have a kind of a piece that touches the heart and the emotion, but you also have to have the facts. You don't want them to stand on their own, okay? This population wants the facts, but they don't want to hear your facts until you've earned the right for them to listen. How do you earn that right? You give them a story, right? You tell them something that they go, oh, wow, yeah, that speaks to me, right? And then you give them the facts, okay? That becomes very critical. So you need to become a good storyteller. Using your clients and the stories of your clients is a good way to segue to that. Even if you're not showing them as a before and after testimonial, even if you're just referring to them and talking about something that has happened, okay? So don't be afraid to do that. So the last thing I'm just going to hit on very quickly because I'm way over time is about their values. At the heart of everyone is values, and values are what drives buying decisions. Values are what really drive the boomers to make a purchase. When you can tap into one, preferably more of these values, you're going to be successful. Okay? When you can think about, okay, when we think about their identity, their ideal self, how can I tap into that? What is their idealized version of themselves that I'm trying to show them that I can get them to, right? Now, again, for a younger person, an idealized version might be very physical, right? It might be very aesthetic, but not so for the boomers. So you've got to figure out what that is, okay? The relationship values are very important. We talk about grandchildren a lot, okay, and when we talk to people, because you get people talking about grandchildren and like you're in, right? You start talking about their grandchildren and they love it, right? And so we're always getting updates about grandchildren as well, okay, and what's going on and asking about that. The charities, they're very purpose-driven, okay? There's a change that occurs as you mature that makes you want to give back. It's part of that maturational aging process. And so they are very giving. They're very purpose-driven. So again, that's why tapping into those charities is also very important, and joining them in those is good. A lot of transitions that are going on, so a lot of needs for adaptation. And whether it's a divorce, a downsize, a problem with a child, whatever it might be, there's a lot of transition that is constantly going on, and they have to develop resiliency in order to get through those. How does your program help them get through that? Okay? And of course, the energy values that we talk about of being able to do all the great stuff that they want to do. When we go through our business coaching on Sunday, this is going to be a key part of what we talk about. How do we craft your message based on what you do so that we can hit these ideal clients with these values? If you can line all those up, you are lining up the stars for success, okay? It's not superficial, okay? I'm not giving you a simple strategy. I'm not saying, here, just do this one thing and your business is going to explode, right? This is about getting deep into the heart and mind of this client that you want to go after. But once you do that, once you do the work to get there, and you got it in your head now who this person is, guess what? It starts to roll, okay? It starts to roll very quickly. All right, well, I just want to thank you all for listening very much, and sorry that I went a little long, but hopefully it was well worth it. Thank you.